The Snatch Game is a challenge that is slowly dying out in my opinion, and I think we've massively lost the plot on not only celebrity impersonation, but also in improv in general. I think the current pool of drag queens just are not inspired in the same way that the drag queens of yesteryear were. Many of them are inspired by current drag reality stars. And so these base skills of impersonating a famous diva are kind of fading out of existence. Doesn't mean nobody's doing it, but the queens that they're casting, that is not their forte. And so with that in mind, I'm very grateful that the team this year decided to take a departure from what we normally expect from Snatch Game. Pull a page out of what worked really well, I think, for Slajon Royale, even though this was filmed, I think, before, and change up what we expect from the Snatch Game. Hi, hello everyone, my name is Jer, and I just feel like the competition is really heating up. In honor of Melinda Verga, I have something Canadian in my beverage today. Heavy pour. Heavy pour. There was a lot that happened this week and we're gonna get into all of it, but first, some housekeeping. I'm a YouTuber that genuinely makes content because I love doing it. I do my best to try and get y'all excited to come in, but I don't do a lot of clickbait. I don't do a lot of thumbnails that are meant to capture your attention. I'm trying to genuinely foster a community of people who like the show and want to hear some thoughts outside of the norm by being as genuinely, authentically myself as possible. I know it's kind of abnormal for Drag Race commentators to be as actively engaged in their comment sections as I am, but go through just about any of my videos and you'll see that I'm engaging with almost all of you. Because I'm fostering a community here and I genuinely am interested in y'all's thoughts about the show, not about my thoughts on the show. So when some of y'all act dumb in my comments, you should baseline expect that I'm going to clap back. I don't want to get too messy in this intro. So let's talk about something that made me smile, and that's that Godland last week commented that she loves me so much. And Godland, if you're watching this, I love you. I think you're incredible. It is a good week to be a Godland stan. This is the third week in a row that she has top 2, and in the words of Kimmy Couture, that is correct. This week in the workroom, we are coming hot off the heels of a lot of emotions last week. Naomi's pretty ecstatic about being safe, Mariah's feeling good about herself, but Sminty came in hot to make sure she took away that joy. Melinda may be gone, but her fighting spirit entered Sminty in that moment, and she was ready to throw around verbal daggers. She was feeling her goats, reading down not only Mariah, but also Fontana caught a couple strays, which is very quickly resolved the next day. Both her and Zahira apologized to Fontana, but doubled down that they meant everything they said about Mariah. And it seems like Mariah's looks last week were polarizing not only in the comments here on YouTube, but also in the moment back in April. So here's my thing. The girls on Drag Race are not allowed to talk about production, so they have to go about it in different ways. And I wonder if they're sort of sensing that it's not in the cards for them to win ultimately. So might as well make some good TV along the way until the inevitable season end. Wherever they fall in the grid, at least they will have made some good moments. And I think that's what happened here. And I think their genuine frustration at production was unfortunately aimed at 2 of their fellow competitors. And we see that happen a lot on the show. However, Godland is staying far out of the drama and is remaining locked in, nose to the grind in the competition. And that paid off for her this week. We're seeing the UK alliance once again fall apart. And I think this is exactly what Kate was afraid of in week 1. And this is why she didn't want to align herself. She says that both Sminty and Zahira showed their asses and she's worried about being too close to the fire that they've got because she might get burned in the process. So she's trying to remain as neutral with everyone as possible, and I think that's a smart gameplay. If there are incendiary characters in the workroom, you probably don't want to be associated with them so that when the time comes to choose, maybe you will get chosen to be safe. And I wonder if that's gonna start building up. That maybe there's gonna be a super dramatic moment where all 3 UK queens are in the bottom, and Kate might be the one saved since she's the one that's been neutral with everyone so far. In the new day, Fontana looks sickening in this teal eyeball 2-piece. God, her fashion is so good. I need that outfit. Rue announces after No Mini Challenge that they're gonna be doing a variation of the Snatch Game. And thank God it is not the BS Family Feud style that they've done the last couple years of Versus the World in the UK. They'll have to do something called the Miss Snatch Game pageant, where they'll participate in 3 categories: entrance, Q&A, and swimsuit. I actually find this such a fun and interesting change of pace, Considering that, once again, I think celebrity impersonation is very quickly dying out, this is a good route for being able to try and embody a celebrity while also incorporating tons of physical comedy, and gives the room a little more control over their own humor. Doesn't force them to rely on maybe the energy of others in the room, because we've seen in other Snatch games that when some characters are kind of booger, it brings the vibe down and it's harder to volley when everyone else is flopping. Alternatively, we've seen when the room flops and there's that one character who can hold their own, they can pull from some of the mania that's happening around them and stand out and shine even more. But I did like the varied senses of humor that we got, and that's been one of my biggest critiques of the UK in all of these improv challenges or comedy-based challenges, is that it puts the ESL queens at a kind of significant disadvantage to everyone else. They're dealing with multiple humor points of reference, where some places may be a little more blunt with their humor, some places might be a little more sarcastic, and some may have completely different presentational styles of telling jokes. And so I like that this one really puts the power in the queen's hands. What I will say is, I'm not enchanted fiercely by made-up characters. When the prompt is celebrity impersonation, I want to see celebrity impersonation. And we didn't really get a lot of that through line. And the runway category this week is called Let Them Eat Capes. And I wonder if Michelle had a brain aneurysm when this happened. Like, did she short circuit like, we're gonna get Marie Antoinette again? I was so badly hoping that there would be 9 Marie Antoinettes, all with capes. I would have died. During walkthroughs, I have not seen RuPaul be that quiet in a long time in response to something. You could see her production brain breaking, like, what kind of standards and practice are we gonna need to do to avoid this? Are we gonna have to do reshoots? What is happening right now, and how do I mitigate this as the lead producer here to remain not only sensitive, but also let this girl have some creative control, because I wanna kind of see what she's gonna do with it. The silence in the room was deadly, but later on, hearing Naomi's story and her perception of living in modern day Germany as a queer person, and seeing this alt-right movement be so prevalent is very much a parallel line to what's happening here in the States. We're seeing the alt-right emerge in a way that's terrifying and scary. But Naomi's story, I think, was impactful and important. Drag should be something that is political and extreme in nature. It should be something that is a protest at times. And to be able to look at a drag performer highlighting a very clear and problematic point of existence right now, I think helps people process and digest some of that information in a way that's less scary. And we're seeing already that history is repeating itself in a lot of ways here in the States. So I appreciate that Drag Race allowed this story to be highlighted, because I feel like with the Ru production seasons, we don't often get these conversations. This is very much a Canada's Drag Race style, allowing us to see the inner workings of the queens behind the veneer of their persona. I appreciated all of that extensively. So let's get to the Snatch Game and talk about the runways. We have Kate Butch first doing Humpty Dumpty. I don't like characters that are not celebrities, so on the Snatch Game end, it's a chop for me. However, on a improv level, I liked it. I think the look was very fun. I think this would kill in a nightclub. That small campy wig on top of the egghead was hilarious. I think she took advantage of every moment when it came to the physical comedy, and I think that overall she was a strong presence in the Snatch Game. I don't know how you could translate this character to an actual celebrity, but I think it was funny for an improv set. On the runway, Kate has got this Sherlock Holmes story happening. It's a pretty simplistic look, but I think it's a great reference and it works for her. I like it, despite it being kind of small. It's simple in design, but effective. And that's kind of my thoughts on the entire Snatch Game performance as well. I think overall it's a soft slay. Mariah is out next doing Jackie Harry. How has no one done this before? We have had 6 instances of Cardi B, but never a Jackie Harry, and I don't understand. I love the idea of doing this character, and in my opinion, Mariah did this great amounts of justice. I loved her voice. I loved the look, that big 80s hair. I am so gooped again that no one has done this before. She brought up Marjay, which is a brilliant Sister reference. This was so good. She had that extreme ridiculousness that Jackie Harry just has naturally. Her physical comedy throughout the entire game, as well as during the swimsuit portion, was super impressive to me. This was a high mark performance. And then on the runway, Mariah is doing this Grace Jones nod. I love the parachute-esque cape. She looked sexy and sultry. That dark eyeshadow was so hot on her. This was a culmination of a lot of different concepts that I think worked very well. I think it was striking. It is a super slay. I am extremely confused why she wasn't in the top this week, where last week I was extremely confused why she was high. I think Mariah's placements have been all over the place, and I wish that she had gotten good critiques this week, where I think she earned them more so than last week. Zahira is doing someone named Jessica Alves. She looked like a who. She looked like she was on her way to the Hubilation. She was funny and silly in the intro, but her voice kept changing every time she spoke, that it was kind of jarring for me. I don't know this character. Maybe they actually do talk like that. But I felt like not only was the voice dropping and then it would go high and then it would be kind of Valley Girl, it was all over the place and I didn't like that. On top of the fact that she was just fine. On the runway, she is presenting this music conductor. This is what balanced her out and put her in a safe position, in my opinion, because the Snatch Game was definitely low. The cape she's wearing has fantastic flow. I love the color block of this black and white looking like a piano, and she is so muggy. Even with that stash, it is a super slay. Hannah Fontana is in next doing Carmen Miranda. She was fun on entrance, but Rue looked immediately like she hated it. I think she came in like a fireball with lots of energy, but it didn't really go anywhere. It was just a lot of unfocused excitement. I'm not even sure if she understood what her comedy perspective was. And so even though Rue seemed like she initially didn't like it, I think there were plenty of reasons why she didn't connect with it as it went on, because it just didn't have any placement in this game. It wasn't even that strong as an improv concept. And on the runway, she's giving us a Sailor Moon fantasy. I know exactly what she was referencing. As someone who still loves Sailor Moon to this day, this was giving me life. I love that Nude Illusion bodysuit with all the glitter and rhinestones everywhere. That is peak drag to me. She captured that ribbon effect that goes around Usagi perfectly, and it's hysterical to me that Serena Morena is here and her name is inspired by Sailor Moon, and Fontana's the one who did a Sailor Moon reference first. This is a slay if I've ever seen one. I don't want to live in a world where this doesn't exist. But poor girl, this was a rough week for her, sadly, especially with her anxiety flaring up so badly. Sminty is out next doing the Big Bad Wolf, and normally I hate characters that are not celebrities, but this worked me out. I think that weird high voice that she did right at the beginning was so funny. I was able to immediately laugh. I think the hip and breast proportion was such peak comedy. The look was draggy with all of that pink makeup. And again, I'm not normally enchanted fiercely by non-celebrities, but this was hilarious. When there was the one question that started with, "The Big Bad Wolf," and she replied, "Big?" That absolutely slayed me. And on the runway, Sminty is presenting this two-tone look, which is inspired by a shadow. I think she was able to capture that idea very well. She looked like a graphic cartoon almost. I love the candelabra, although I wish that maybe there were some electric lights on it that flickered. The construction of that black tulle over that white dress was quite simply immaculate. This is a massive slay. She's fresher than a mint. Minty is up next, presenting a unicorn for the Snatch Game. What a rough decision this was. She was trying to play a gay icon unicorn who's actually a straight man, and I don't think that came through at all. To me, it came across like she changed her idea as soon as she got there, but then didn't commit fully to it. Her presentation was flat, and I don't think Rue knew where to go with it either. When you get into improv and your character is sort of fuzzy and grainy, whoever else is in the scene with you has a hard time latching on to something to find humor so that they can volley with you. That was her biggest problem. But realistically, I think because Minty wasn't very strong at improv challenges in Philippines 1, this was always going to get her, I fear. On the runway, she is presenting this pink fairy where she wanted to present both edgy and soft, and I think she accomplished that. I like this baby pink color on her, it's super ethereal. I like the silver headpiece, but the textures of those dangly bits were throwing me off a little bit. It's pretty, but it's also a lot. I would say it's a soft slay, and I don't think the runway was enough to carry her through the challenge. Oh my God, Lind is the next presenting Cardi B. This is now the 6th Cardi B on Drag Race. 6. Cardi B has been presented on Drag Race more times than there are seasons of Drag Race Sweden. Cardi B has been on more seasons than there are of Drag Race Down Under. This is insane. I'm sort of tired of Cardi as a character, even though I love Godland. I think she was funny on Arrival. I loved her confidence, but for me, I think she relied on the WAP jokes a little too much. And normally I don't agree with Michelle when it comes to critiques. I normally find her kind of off base, but I absolutely agreed that Godland was doing a lot of the same jokes. So it was kind of funny to me that they harped on Fontana for continuing to make these fruit jokes when Godland was doing kind of the same thing. The difference between them is that Godland was hilarious and kept Rue engaged. I think her bombacity and commitment to this character sold it better than anyone else before her. Where I think that Vanda was maybe the only other person to do Cardi B that was genuinely very funny. The Thai girls, they keep winning. But I gotta know why they love Cardi so much. On the runway, Godland is giving this beautiful nod to her country with the Thai flag, the fighting fish. I love the flow of that cape. It was sexy, it was camp, it was super effective and a brilliant look, I think. I liked the construction of that bodice. It all just worked. This was a super slay. And there goes Serena, doing what I know she can do best. I love the way that she talks about herself in third person in Drag Race Mexico. She decided to do a character change to Charro. A mistake, I think, because Rue is very close with Charo. We saw Charo in season, 12? We saw her in season 15. She has been in multiple other challenges. Yara Sofia already did her fiercely in All Stars 1. This is sort of like a Diana Ross. If you're going to commit to the Charo illusion, you have to go for it 100,000%. There's no half stepping. You have to do everything right. And while I kind of laughed like a lunatic at how fast Serena was talking, I think she kind of captured a little bit of that essence. It wasn't enough. And I think because this is someone who is close to Rue, it's kind of hard to be super effective with it. I think the problem with Serena is that she was massively uncommitted to this character. As soon as she sensed that it was going bad, she retreated into herself, and that's an improv crime. If you feel like the audience is not connecting with what you're doing, you have to do it better and figure out a way to get out of that slump. You can never let the audience know that you're not the real one. And on the runway, Serena Morena is doing some bones on a corset. This is a skeleton, this is bones. I like the makeup a lot, but the corset with the things on it was such a chop. I appreciate what she was going for, it just wasn't enough. Like, not anywhere near enough. Next up, the only Naomi is presenting Gerhardt H. This could have been so uncomfortable. I think she actually did a great job. It was an insane idea to do something that is so political, but again, I think that drag should be political. I think the kinky lederhosen was insane, but so funny. And then for the swimsuit category, having that giant bush, so camp, so unwell. But I think it worked. I think it was effective in what it was trying to do. It gave a political message, it left an impact, and Drag Race wasn't afraid to let this play out. Because at the end of the day, if it was too blue, they could have deleted things. They could have not featured it in the edit or done reshoots. And on the runway, she is giving this Greek goddess realness. The cape was a bit heavy. I wish that it had a bit more flow. Maybe if it was in a lighter fabric, that would have been accomplished. But I liked her humor on the runway of stopping to bend over and clean it. That was very funny. Super slay. And overall, my feelings on this Snatch Game is that it was a good adjustment for what the challenge calls for. I think, again, each one of them have some opportunity to control their comedy a bit more rather than rely on everybody else in the room. As for critiques, I feel like Mariah should have been a high placer this week. I would have honestly replaced her with the Naomi. That was really the only placement I disagreed about. And for me, I think that Serena redeemed herself for her bad critiques with that wonky, chopped impression of Cher. She definitely has watched the show and knows that that's how you get Rue to laugh. Rue then calls Godland as the winner. This is now 3 tops in a row, and That is so correct. I knew that Godlin was gonna stomp, but I had no idea it would be this severely. And with 3 wins, that's gonna put a massive target on her back. I just hope that she doesn't have a Pangina moment and the girls see an opportunity to get her out and do it. However, I'm gonna be so real. With everyone that's left, beyond Fontana, Godlin can beat any of them in a lip sync. Like, down. So I'm not terribly worried if she does land in the bottom. Serena, Minty, and Fontana are the bottom 3 this week, which upsets me because I really, really love Fontana, and I did not want to have to see her lip sync, especially after she was having so many anxiety issues and quite literally blue chunks in Untucked. Godlin had 2 minds in this decision making. One, she really liked Serena's performance and thought it was funny, was confused why Rue didn't laugh. And I was kind of entertained by the fact that they allowed that into the edit. Normally, I feel like they don't let the girls say anything that circumvents Rue's judgment. Certainly not in a, I don't get why Rue didn't laugh at that. Unless they're trying to create a delusional girl edit, which that wasn't what was happening here. Godlin was simply saying, I did not agree with these critiques at all, and Rue should have laughed at that. That kind of undercutting doesn't normally happen. I'm sure that it's said plenty of times, but it's not normally featured. Normally it's sort of framed as, I really liked this person, I thought they were funny, not, I thought they were funny and Rue didn't laugh at it, which I didn't get. And she posted on Twitter that she wanted to make some good TV, and I think she did that. Choosing to save Serena and allowing Fontana to lip sync in order to create a television moment was a gag. This was great TV in my opinion, and on a track record level, Fontana should have been the one that was safe. However, on a third plane, I think she was judging this episode a lot like how Pangina and Art did. They are very by the book when it comes to the episode. It doesn't matter what your track record is. There were plenty of girls in Drag Race Thailand that had been doing very good up until the time of their elimination, but they had a bad week and they didn't get any grace. It was, you did bad, you're in the bottom, fight for your life. And I think that played a lot into Godlin's decision making. She looks at track record, but also looks at what did you do this week? Whatever you did last week doesn't matter. And that's very top model, very Project Runway vibes, and it's very much what Drag Race I think should be. Yes, consider track record and what's coming up, but also, did you flop this week? Yes, lip sync. That's the parameters, and that's what reality TV should do. So I kind of appreciated it, even if I also was very bummed because I didn't want to see Fontana lip sync. The lip sync song is called Angel of My Dreams, and it's by Jade. She specifically says that she wrote it with Drag Race in mind. Fontana hit that pose at the beginning, and I was sad. The lip sync was very fun to watch, but mostly for the girls in the background, because Serena was dancing with the Chippy T at one point, and that sent me to Mars. And then Zahira was losing her shit. I love when the queens are gagging over one of the girls and you can tell that they are looking only at them. Fontana has so much stage presence. I believed in her lip sync, and that's not something that I think is very common with a lot of queens. Minty I think was fun to watch, but she stood almost no chance with Fontana on that stage. Fontana is called as the winner and literally collapsed. When it panned to Jade saying, obsessed, that was such a vibe. Because I too am obsessed with Fontana. Diva! Like diva! Minty looked devoed that it was her time, but I'm not surprised. I've been feeling since this all started that Minty was probably not gonna go as far as the others. Her energy is distinctly lower key than the rest of them. We don't often see Minty do that stupid thing that Drag Race loves to see. She has a certain level of refinement to her drag and her presentation of that. She doesn't get down into the mud like what sometimes, especially the Rue judge seasons, require you to do. And that's to kind of act a fool. I think if Minty was that kind of queen, almost like a Venus Deluxe, who doesn't mind acting wild on the show, I think she would have gone farther. And I kind of go back to a statement that I said previously. I wonder how Minty would have done on Slasian and maybe replaced her here with someone from there. I would have loved to have seen Arizona Brandy here instead and had Minty be in Slasian Royale. I think that Arizona would have done spectacular spectacularly in front of Rue. I think that Rue would have connected with her immediately and she would have gone to the end. Whereas I think that Minty would have gone at least to the halfway point, probably to right about where Siam was eliminated, maybe right after Snatch Game. That's another thought for another universe, but I do wonder what it would have looked like if maybe she had been swapped with someone like an Arizona or a Venus. Someone who can act a fool when they're required to. And I think using that unicorn face, completely masking her, allowed her to sort of hide some of those insecurities of not being traditionally drag race funny, but you could still feel that insecurity coming out of the performance because she wasn't locked into it the way she needed to be. Next week are girl groups, where I am even more sad than I have ever been. There's a lot of story that could potentially happen. Both Serena and Fontana had to lip sync during their girl groups. I completely disagree with those placements, but I wonder if Drag Race will follow through with that storyline and continue on the story that was left off. I do worry a little bit for Mariah and Kate. I don't think they're the best dancers, and I worry that maybe their performances will not be up to where everyone else is, depending on what they're looking for and what the style of song is. I would love if this is kind of in a Canada's Drag Race fashion, where maybe the 3 UK girls end up together, because that could be a great opportunity to start this UK versus the world thing, where we've got maybe Kate, Sminty, and Zahira all in bottom 3. And Kate's the one who gets saved because she's been the most neutral with everyone so far. Could be interesting to see, because a lot of this storyline, especially with Sminty and with Zahira, are that they're burning bridges. And I think that this is going to come to fruition maybe a bit sooner than we realize. I think that Godlin is gonna stomp again. I know that she's very good in this challenge in particular. Go watch her Sip 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 because it's fantastic. But overall, I'm super happy with this episode and how it all turned out. I like the way that they adjusted Snatch Game, and I think that this format could easily be applied to mainline. I know that's a controversial opinion, but I really feel like Snatch Game in particular is on the decline. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comments below. Thank you so much to all of my Extravaganza Extra members for supporting this channel. If you want to check that out, that is right down by the join button. Thank you for watching. I will see you all on the flip.